come on yet. But if it has come on, how's it going? Oh, it has come on. All right, cool. Welcome everyone to the live stream. Let me know. Let me turn the volume off on this first. Let me know. There are not two streams. Oh, whoops. What happened here? Give it 1 second. It's about. There we go. Okay, now we should be good. Guys, let me know where you're from. Say hello on the chat box for me. Let me know where you're. Bonjour. All right, everyone. So today we're going to be answering your questions that you asked on Instagram, as we typically do every single Friday, usually at this time. We will answer your questions in the comments as well at the end. And if you want one of your questions answered, I will be putting another picture up that you can ask questions on if I don't get to your question, okay? So I'm getting to as many as we can. So we support Everton. Sorry, man, can't do it. Insta is SimplySoccer Pro, I believe. It should be in the description after all that. We got Canada, Portugal, the North Pole. I highly doubt that, but if you are, that's really cool. We got Quebec, Canada. First time watching one of my live streams. Welcome, man. Liverpool, let's get it. Get that top four. Australia, that's awesome. All right, guys. So, like I said, we're going to answer your questions. So we're going to get right into it in a moment. And at the end... we will answer some of your questions directly from the chat. So make sure you save your questions and you have them ready for towards the end. We got Ireland, England, Holland, Arizona, Antarctica, Nigeria, Somalia, Texas, Arabia, Ireland, Pakistan, Bermuda Triangle. All right, guys. Israel. Dude, we got a lot of people represented here. This is awesome. Denmark, Spain. All right, guys. Welcome. Mexico. Okay, so we're going to get right through your questions now, and again, then we'll answer your questions from the comment section. So we're going to go right into it. It's Dylan M110 from Instagram. He says, how can I improve my heading ability? So I'm assuming you mean general heading, or do you mean, I don't know if it's attacking heading, like trying to score a goal, because it's a bit different. So generally, if you want to improve your heading ability, it's actually quite simple. I might make a video on it, but you know, it's not really something that hasn't been made before. You can look up a ton of tutorials on YouTube, but one of the best ways really is to have a friend of yours kind of throw you the ball and practice the technique while you're standing, and then do some where you jump up in the air and time it and head it back down to him. Now, when you're trying to score a goal, one of the most important things when you're heading is you usually want to head downwards. That's usually more difficult for the keeper to save if you head it into the ground or low, because if you head it like kind of towards his hands, he can just reach out and kind of grab it if it's not enough to the side of him. But if it's low, he has to dive down to save it. So there are a few different types of headers. There's defensive headers, obviously. There's more attacking headers. There are headers you have to win in the middle of the park off a goal kick or something similar. A lot of it's going to come down to your timing, and that's why a drill where you have the ball thrown up to you by a friend and you jump up to meet it is going to be very effective. You want to use your forehead, and this is all something I could explain a lot better in a video, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, but get a friend and practice it. If you don't have a friend to practice it with, or you can't get a friend out, I shouldn't say you don't have a friend, but you can't get a friend out to practice it with you, you can use a wall, a rebounder, really anything that will bounce the ball back to you. Okay, so we might make a video on that a little later, but you know what? I guarantee 100% that there's a ton of tutorials on that topic, okay? So we're going to move right along with these questions so we can get to your questions in the comments. Okay. The Football for Insta, how to enjoy individual training more often. I like this question. This is a good question. So, you know, when you're training, especially consistently, it can feel, you know, like a real grind sometimes. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just got to discipline yourself and grind it out. You have to stick to your schedule. You have to stick to your workout plan, to your meal plan, your recovery. There's so much that goes into it. And you need that discipline, but there's definitely ways to enjoy your training more often. One of the ways is to vary the drills you're doing on a specific area. So, for example, if you're doing dribbling, you can always figure out drills that basically have the same impact or same effect, but are different. And this is actually something that keeps you kind of guessing, not guessing, but challenges you. And our brains actually like it when you do different things like this. But make sure it's something in the same area. So if you're going to do like a shooting drill and you want to mix it up, don't do something that's going to be completely different to where it's working on something different, but do it to where it's just a different drill, you're freshening it up and making it more fun for yourself. Another way to make training a little better, like so that you enjoy it more, is to get what's called flow state. If you've ever been practicing and just things are going really well, you're working hard and time seems to be flying by, and before you know it, an hour or two has gone by and you have no idea where the time went, it's because you got into that flow state, you got into the zone. And anyone who's experienced this, and probably all of you have experienced this at least a few times, you know how thrilling that is to get in the zone. One way to do that is to challenge yourself. Now, there's a fine line here. You can't challenge yourself to the point where it's impossible, because then you'll give up, you'll get discouraged, you'll down on yourself. And if you make it too easy, then you're just going to go through the motions. So if you go and do the drills you always do at the same speed you always do them, then you're just going to go through the motions and you're going to zone out instead of getting in the zone, right? So challenge yourself to the point where maybe you're making a few mistakes. Challenge yourself to the point, actually here's a good way to put it. Challenge yourself to the point where if you get it right, it feels like a victory, like you're trying a new move or a skill, or you're trying to do this drill and you're trying to do it in a certain amount of time, like you're trying to beat your record. You're going to feel exhilarated and great when you beat that record, and you're going to be able to get into flow as you're trying to beat it. So that's a great way to kind of make it so you enjoy your training. Try and get into that flow state as much as you can. And even if you're not getting into that state, still grind it out. Sometimes you're just going to have to get through it and grind it out and do your best to, do 100% in that session. But the more you can get in flow state, the more you're going to enjoy your training. And after you've been training long enough and consistently, you'll find that you're enjoying the grind as well. Okay, so moving right along is Skill Robin, who says, should you train your stamina when you're in your early teens or focus more on things like ball control? What's most important? All right. They're both important. I mean, there's really I really consider, your skill with the ball at your feet and your ability with the ball is always going to be something that's really, really important, and probably one of the most important. But the fact of the matter is, you could be as good as anyone with the ball at your feet. Your ball control can be amazing, but if you can only last 10 minutes in a match, then you can't really express that skill that you've developed, right? So you need to be working on both. And again, this just comes down to your discipline. You can work in doing both. You can work in working on stuff like your ball control and your stamina and your speed and your strength. You can work all of that in if you schedule right, you get disciplined or become disciplined and all that. So I wouldn't say one's more important than the other. If I had to choose one, I would say ball control is, but I don't want to really say that just in case you go, oh sweet, I'm just going to work on my ball control now. Screw the stamina. I don't like the stamina. Yeah, well, I don't like working on stamina either, but you kind of have to do it. Okay, okay, just making sure the screen didn't freeze out there. So that's what you really want to make sure you're doing both. And again, the more you play, if you're in your teens, the more you play, the more stamina you're going to develop. So, play all the time. You can work on your ball control. Just make sure that you're not neglecting your fitness, because something I regret, one of my biggest regrets from when I was a teen, probably like 13, 14, 15, is I didn't work on my stamina enough or my strength enough. And I really wish I had, to give myself more of a base and a foundation to work with moving forward. And I only really would work individually on skills, ball control and stuff. I'd work on fitness with my team and stuff. But I really, really regret not having been more structured, not having worked on my stamina a lot more back then, because it probably would have helped me out a lot, in the last few years. So definitely work on both. So Diego.R30 asks, how do I adapt to my new level of play? I just joined a club for the first time. So this is basically the question, the title question, how to adapt to a better team or adapt to a team if you've never been on a team. Because it can be a bit intimidating if you're going from a team like that's at this level to like this level, right? So how do you adapt? First and foremost, give yourself a little bit of time. You're not going to walk in usually right away and be the star player. I remember when I was 16 years old, I moved to a club team that was head and shoulders better than any other team I'd been on to that point. And I knew I was a good player. I'd been working hard, but I had to, learn how to play with these guys. They were quicker. They had better touch. They were more skillful. So what you want to do is definitely learn from the players that are around you. One of the best things about playing with players who are better than you is you either, shrink away from the challenge or you step up. And obviously, I encourage you to step up. You have to start adapting. You have to start practicing more. You have to start, kind of mimicking what they're doing in order to keep up. And then from there, you try and go even further. So when you're in your team trainings, notice what are the players doing well? Like, what are they good at? And you want to start working on those things as well. And just by playing with these players, by the way, you're going to get better. You get better when playing with better players. If you've ever noticed, you can even notice this in a match. If you've played a team that's just nowhere near your level, like your team's just crushing them, you might have noticed you're going through the motions. You're not really, you might even be showboating a little bit. You're not taking it too seriously. I mean, you should, but you have to condition yourself to take those kind of matches seriously. But when you've played a team like almost on your level, maybe even a little better, you might have experienced like one of the best games of your life. And this isn't every time, but you probably experienced a step up in your performance. And that's the same when you're playing with higher level players. You have to adapt or die. Not literally, but adapt or die. You have to, at that point, basically do it. So if you're practicing with them, you will start picking things up. Consciously be doing it. Don't think it's just going to happen. But you'll be picking things up. Observe what the other players are doing. If you have to ask the coach on things you have to work on, that's fine too. And keep working on your game. And recognize it will take a little bit of time. Some players can go right in and be, right away just be one of the best. Other players, it takes a little bit of time. This happens even at the professional level when a player moves from a lower league to a higher team, or, a team that's lower in the table to a higher team. Unless you're Dele Alli and you go right in there and just dominate completely. But in most cases, there's that period of adjustment. So don't get too down on yourself if immediately you're not crushing it. But obviously, go for it anyway, okay? So next question is from Jalen BXO on Instagram. And how do you not become intimidated and stay confident when facing bigger, more technical opponents in soccer? I find myself struggling with this problem a lot when I play with my club team. Okay, so how to stay, not become intimidated and stay confident when facing bigger and more technical opponents in soccer. Really, it's going to come down to your own self-belief. You don't compare yourself to players, especially when you're in the actual match. Just have belief in your ability, play to your strengths. There's all these different types of players. There are, really strong players, really skinny players, really quick players, really technical players. There's all different types of players. Stick to your game and have complete confidence in your own game, and don't really worry too much about, coming up against a bigger guy or a really technical guy. You can work on those things outside the matches, but when you're in the match itself, it's essential that you maintain your own self-belief in your ability and your own confidence. And I'm trying to think of something else that might help you in this situation. It's just, it's going to take time to develop this confidence, because you're saying how to not become intimidated and stay confident in this kind of situation. And really, it comes down to that. So work on your confidence if you have to. Pump yourself up before the game. Keep reminding yourself to play to your strengths. Keep reminding yourself how good a player you are if you have to. And it's just going to come down to that, because you're always going to come up against opponents who are bigger than you. You're always going to come up against opponents who are more technical than you, probably. You just have to get used to that and have confidence and belief in your own ability. So, you know what? That actually might be a decent video idea too. So I might make something that elaborates a little more and gives you a few more strategies in the future. Okay, we have 3 more questions for Instagram, and then we will answer your questions here that you have in the chat. Let's see here. Zach Brown _9IV started playing for an adult team this season, so most of the people I play against are much bigger and stronger, but I'm faster than them. I'm not sure if I should just play to my strengths or push myself into situations I'm weak in to get better. What's up, John? Saying hi from England. That's an interesting one, actually. I never thought of it that way. Obviously, you want to play to your strengths, but you also want to work on your weaknesses outside of that. So if you're saying you're weak in certain situations, I'm I don't think necessarily you should deliberately be putting yourself in those situations in matches. I mean, in a match, you want to do anything you can possible to get the best performance out of you. You want to have the most impact. You want to stand out. So I wouldn't be putting yourself in situations deliberately that you're weak in, but you can work on those things in your practice or in your training, so when you actually find yourself in those situations, you're prepared to deal with them. Because, if this league's not that serious and you're okay with doing that, then go for it. I don't see much of an issue in that. But if I was playing in like my main league or a serious league, I'd be doing everything I can to play to my strengths. If this is like you said, it's an adults league, so I don't know if it's like a summer league, a semi-serious league, or it's your main league. You're gonna have to gauge that. But in a serious match, I would say always play to your strengths as much as you can, and in practice, you can identify what your weaknesses are and work on them so that when you do find yourself in those situations, you can better deal with them. Yo, what's up, Freddie from Liverpool? My man there. All right. Okay, let's get on 2 more questions here, and then we will answer your questions down there in the comments. Oh, Morocco as well. What's up? And it's, how do you become consistent during games? Goal scoring, finishing. That's a great question. I actually almost titled this that because that's a really good question, because something I always talk about is consistency, not just in your practice, but you want to develop consistency in matches, because if you're like a striker, it's no good scoring like 2 goals in your first match, but then not scoring for another 8, and then scoring 3 goals, and then not scoring for another 5, and and so on. You want to be consistently scoring as much as possible. Or if you're a center mid, you want to be consistently performing well in that position, or whatever position it is. It's all right, Freddie. I'll let you off. Although, you know what, you're an actual Liverpudlian, so I can't really argue too much with you if you're actually in Liverpool. But to answer this question, so consistency to me comes down to a few things. Mainly it's right here, guys. It's your mind. It's your confidence in yourself. Like, my most inconsistent and consistent periods always had to do with where my confidence was in those moments. When I was incredibly inconsistent, it was because my confidence was shot. I didn't have belief in my ability. I got angry at myself. I made mistakes and would get angry at myself instead of analyzing them and thinking how I could improve. When I was being consistent, I was at the peak of my confidence. I had faith in my ability. I knew if I missed a chance, it's okay, I'll get the next one. I knew if I had a bad game, I could bounce back. One of the problems when it comes to consistency during games is players will have a bad game, and maybe even 2 or 3, and then it's just like they're always trying to play catch up. They're always trying to get it back. But the best players in the world always know that they can bounce back. Like, you think of a Luis Suarez, for example. If he goes on a 4-game goal drought, for example, do you think he starts to lose his confidence? No, he's probably hungrier and hungrier to get those goals. His confidence probably doesn't go that low from that point. So you need to really get control of your confidence. You really need to get control of your mindset, because I believe consistency really is more of a mental thing than a physical. Now, speaking of the physical, you need to work on your technical skills for whatever position it is you're in if you want to be consistently performing in matches too. Again, these go hand in hand, the physical and the mental. You can't have just one or the other. You need both of them, probably in equal measure. I just think the mental side is a side of the game players often ignore, and it's hurting them. Because I've known players, for example, that have been some of the incredibly technical, really good, could score goals for days in practices, but weren't doing it in matches. They were inconsistent. And I always noticed the players that were consistent always had, extreme confidence in their ability, not only in that moment, but in their ability to get better as well. Okay? So I would say, obviously you said goal scoring and finishing, so work on your finishing often, your goal scoring often, but also get that mental side as well. And I actually have a video that goes over the mental side of scoring or goal scoring or something like that. So check that out. That'll give you some ideas to start with. But just recognize it's going to come down to more than just the physical skill. Still do the physical skill, still put in the work, but you got to cultivate your mind as well on the mental side of this. Okay. So here we go. We got one more question, and it's simply how to stand out in a team, from Ronaldo._M. Okay, so last question, and then we will get to your comments down there. So how to stand out in a team. I think actually my idea to answer this question is I actually made a video a while ago. I don't know how long ago, but it's called How to Stand Out in Soccer, or How to Become a Standout Soccer Player, Footballer, whatever you want it to be. Go check that out, because I go over, it's a long video, okay? I don't want to sit here and spend an hour discussing just this one thing, because there's a lot that goes into becoming a standout player. If you want to become a standout player on a team, or an impact player, or one of those players when someone's watching the game goes, that guy's the main guy, right? If you want to be that player, there's a lot you got to put in, a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of consistency. So go check that video out. It's called, I think, How to Stand Out in Soccer, or How to Become a Standout Soccer Player. Go check that out. Watch it, take it in, really digest that information, and go from there. If you have any more questions, you can leave me a comment on that video. I'll try and answer them. Okay. All right. So let's get into your questions in the comments. So if you guys do @SimplySoccer, it's a lot easier. Someone asks, is foam rolling good for recovery? Yes, it is. I've got one in one of these closets somewhere. Yes, foam rolling is really good. In fact, I probably need to be doing it a little more. So let's see. So Nexus asks, should I use a normal sized or mini football to practice my touch? It's an interesting question. All I know is I think get comfortable with the regular size ball, obviously, first. That's what you're going to be using in your matches. But I have a size 1 ball that I'll use to like juggle and do a few skill things every now and then, because I am convinced that it actually will help. It's a harder ball to control. It's a harder ball to get a feel for, which means when you move up to a bigger ball, it'll be a little easier. And I remember reading a book when I was a kid. It was Michael Owen, which we won't talk too much about him, but Michael Owen, I used to be a huge fan of his back when he was actually at Liverpool, and he stated in a book, it wasn't like a biography or anything, it was like a book for kids on how to get better. And he said one of the things the coaches at Liverpool did when they were in the youth teams is they would make them play with smaller balls. Like, I don't know if it was like size 3 or smaller, in order to improve their touch, their control, and all of that. So yeah, based on that, I believe it really can improve many areas of your game. A size 1 ball is probably a little extreme, maybe outside of juggling. So if you usually use a size 5, maybe a size 3 football, and kind of experiment with that and see if it helps at all. And I have a feeling it will. If Michael Owens to be trusted, which I don't know if he is, if what he's saying is to be trusted, then yes, it will help you. Okay, no problem, man. How can I get faster? Sorry, your name just scrolled up. Okay, so, how can I get faster? There's many things you can do. One thing is, are you working on your speed? Like, are you actually going out and practicing your sprinting? You need to develop, that area. The more you practice it with proper technique, even running has proper technique. This is something that I had to learn, because I did not use proper running technique. I still struggle with it now. But you have the technique down, you practice your sprints, go to a track and practice your sprints, go to a field and practice your sprints, practice with a ball as well, sprinting as hard as you can, or 70, 80, 90, 100%, and keep doing that. And a good way to also do this, if you can get someone to time you, you can see how well you're improving. It's always good to kind of track those kind of things, like your speed. But there are like weight exercises you can do as well that I believe will help you. You can do plyometric drills, which helps your burst, which you can just look up all that stuff. Just look up strength training to improve speed. Look up plyometric drills to improve speed. There's a ton of stuff out there. But just don't neglect the simple thing, which is to actually go out and work on your running directly through sprints and things like that. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Is there any drills to improve shot accuracy? Any drills? Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things, so I am a big believer in shooting against the wall at first to get your technique down, because if you're talking about like long distance shooting, 18 yards or further back, a lot of it's going to come down to your technique if you want to put it on frame, right? If you get your technique down and you're able to, rifle a shot on that most times, that's going to be valuable for you to match it. So get to a wall and focus only on your technique. Do not focus on trying to hit the crap out of it. Do not try and focus on hitting it hard, and just do rep after rep after rep of good technique, all right? If you don't know what good technique looks like, I have a video that goes over that. It's called something like How to Shoot a Soccer Ball with Power and Accuracy from Far. It shows you the proper way to strike a ball. So use that technique over and over and over again until it becomes second nature, and it will help you be more accurate, because when you're using that proper technique, you'll much more easily keep the ball down, you'll make solid contact, and if your body position is right, you won't be swerving it to either side as well. Okay, so let's get, what else do we have here? All right, 5 more minutes. We'll do 5 more minutes. So let's get a few more questions. Guys, keep asking them because it scrolls. How do I get better at vision? In my school, we play 6v6. I'm going to have to follow this. In a decently small area, and passes come fast, so I don't have time. Any tips on drills for vision in the future? That's actually a very good drill, like 6v6 or like any kind of number in a small confined space. One, because it forces you to play quick, right? And everything's changing. Everything's moving all the time. You look over your shoulder and bam, your teammate who was there had to move in order to create space. Now just recognize that this drill is set up in a way where a lot of mistakes are going to be happening. So don't worry if you're losing the ball a few times when you're doing this drill, because that's just the nature of the drill. It's in a confined space and it's like 6v6 and it's like possession-based games. That's going to happen. But get used to passing and moving, and get used to, one of the great things about this drill is constantly looking over your shoulder. You can't just look here and then like 5 seconds go by and then pass the ball to a teammate who's no longer there. You know, it teaches you to play quick. So look for combinations. Also move immediately, almost automatically when you pass. These drills are intended to not only improve your vision to a certain extent, but the way you pass and move. Because something that a lot of players do, something I used to do way too much, and my coach used to hate me for it and used to always grill me on this, was I would pass and then admire it. Right? I wouldn't pass and move, I would pass and admire it. So you have to just pass and keep looking for open space, keep being aware of what's around you, and just keep doing that drill. Like the more you do that drill, the better at it you're gonna get, right? Because when you're in such a confined space, you have to not only look out where your opponents are, but you have to watch where your teammates are and not take up the space they're in. So just keep at it. It's just something that's going to happen with time. Keep doing the checks. Be constantly aware at all times what's around you. It'll actually be a little easier to know what's around you in that space. I know things are flying by. There's so many players moving that gets more difficult. But it's going to be challenging, but it's definitely something you can work on and get better at. So just keep passing and moving. Keep looking, like every second, take a look. If you're about to take a touch, make sure you take a check. And play 1 and 2 touch unless you know you have a ton of space, okay? So, like those kind of drills are set up also for 1 and 2 touch play. So if you're taking 3, 4, 5 touches and you're losing the ball, that's probably why. Okay, so let's do, what is the difference between Messi and a regular pro player? He's head and shoulders better. I don't know, like I couldn't tell you that. I would have to really look into that. He's just out of this world, isn't he? Okay, so let's get one more question in here, and we'll end it there. So let me get one. Let's get a good one, and let's see here. When should I shoot? My favorite player was Steven Gerrard, but he retired, so. Okay, we'll go, I don't see another one, so we'll go over at Freddie, who said, when should I shoot? What's up, Sam? Yo! Sam Rapine in the house. Alright, so, we'll go over when to shoot. Now, this will vary per situation. I'm someone who always believes, especially if you're an attacking player, that you should never, ever be shy to shoot. My high school coach actually told me once, like, I will never, ever get angry at you for taking a shot. You take a risk with shooting, but I mean, this is so simple, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. I mean, I know you've probably heard your coach use that one a few times, but it's so true. So, obviously, there are going to be situations where you shouldn't shoot. Like if you have an impossible angle, you might want to cut it back or cross it in. If you have a teammate wide open, and you have a shot from 25 yards out, it might be better to play him. But the only thing I'll say on when to shoot is just don't be shy to do so. If you're 25 yards or closer to goal with a good angle and you have faith in your shooting ability, you've worked on it, you've practiced it, and you do not have a better option, I can tell you, if I was coaching a team, I would not have a problem with you taking that shot. My high school coach did not have a problem with that. In fact, he encouraged it. College coach was the same way. Again, it's just kind of determining, is there a better option? And that's why you kind of have to assess everything really quickly. For example, like if you're about to take a shot from a difficult angle, but there's a player right on the doorstep ready to tap it in, you don't want to shoot in that situation. You want to do this selfless thing and allow him to get that tap in. But again, if you're 20 yards out and you have an opening to take a shot on goal and there's nothing except like you have to turn back or play it out wide and reset, don't be afraid to shoot in those situations. Just get in the habit of not being afraid to, and you'll start learning like which situations you should and should not be shooting in. Like, I mean, the obvious ones are 40 yards for goal, you shouldn't be doing it. Impossible angle, you don't want to be doing it too much. Or when a teammate's in a great position to score and you're not. So those are the main ones that I'll do. All right, you know what? I'll do one more. Let's do one more. Quick Click TV. Why am I so cool? Man, that is a mystery. No one knows. You got to share some of that coolness. Okay. How can I be a good finisher in the midfield position? Well, I mean, that's, you know, and like a striker does as well. You just need to practice on your finishing. I know in the midfield position, it's actually, no, I can't. Actually, there is something a midfielder can do. But obviously be working on your finishing. That's a given. So I won't get too much into that, you know, so that when you find yourself in have an opening to score, that you're able to take it, right? But I understand the reason that a lot of midfielders don't get as many goals as strikers, obviously, is because they don't get into those positions because the striker's occupying that position. But watch a player like Dele Alli, for example. Now, he's not like a withdrawn center mid. He kind of plays right off the back of Kane when Kane's playing. I guess it's, I can't pronounce his name, Son Min or something right now, who's playing there. But he kind of ghosts in there. But a lot of it's going to come down to the runs you make and the space you create and how good your finishing ability is. You know, you look at goal scorers like Frank Lampard, who played center mid. Steven Gerrard did it really well. You have many, Dele Alli does it really, really well. You know, start watching these players, and the biggest thing they do, I think, is they fashion those chances by exploiting space, combining with players, and really being good at finishing. Because if you look at Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard, for example, and Dele Alli, actually, these guys have like high-level ability, finishing ability for a midfield player. So start watching those players. Make sure your finishing ability is already good. Like if it's not, get out there and practice it, because you might be getting chances and missing them and not realizing that you could be scoring more. So make sure that's not the thing that's holding you back. But start watching, I would specifically watch Dele Alli because he's just so good at making what I call weak side runs. So like he'll come across here, Kane will check to the ball, creating a gap here, and he'll make that run and his teammate will find him. He scores a lot of goals like that. He's really good at making runs into the box. Arriving late in the box is another way to get goals from midfield. You know, there's a few different ways, but just analyze Dele Alli because that will show you a lot of the ways he opens up space and gets in positions to score. Okay. All right, guys, I think I'm going to stop it there. If you haven't, we did actually release a video on the channel today. We usually don't on the same day we do a live stream, but go check it out. I want to thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to come on here and answer some of your questions. And remember, we will have an Instagram post sometime in the next week where you can ask your questions so that I have them, you know, made before the stream, and you can guarantee one of your questions gets answered if I actually have it on the sheet, so you don't have to wait till the end. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow in the video, which will be out at 5 p.m. And as always, I'm going to do the awkward walk up to go turn off the camera. You guys take care. I'm still here. Bye.